Hey guys, Dantix here. Marvel Rivals, which is Marvel's answer to Overwatch, is in closed alpha, so I've had a chance to look at the whole roster currently available and every single move. It seems like they've actually paid a lot of respect to the characters, so let's take a look and break it all down. First up, I want to cover the amazing Spider-Man, who is classed as the only 5-star difficulty hero. He's also a melee DPS, as you'd expect, with 300 HP. His left click is Spider Power, which swings his fists at enemies for a very low 25 damage a hit, but they take extra damage, almost double, if they have a Spider Tracer attached to them, which I'll go through soon. His ultimate is Spectacular Spin, which stuns enemies in an AoE around him while dealing high damage for its duration, fully killing 300 HP Punishers before the duration ends. So getting right into the middle of a group of enemies as Spider-Man is devastating, as it holds them in place for your allies and kills all but the tanks and grants you 250 bonus temporary HP denoted by the blue bar, making it so you don't easily get taken out while you're channeling it. With left shift you can swing around and really feel like Spider-Man. It sends you flying very far and fast, so you'll need a lot of skill to control it. It has 3 charges and cools down very quickly, so you'll be able to get in position very easily. With E, you fire Get Over Here, which uses web ammo, which you can see near your crosshairs. You have 5 of them and they recharge over time. The ability latches onto the enemy you're targeting and brings them towards you, pulling them out of position, like away from their tank or their healer. However, if the enemy is tagged with a spider tracker, Spider-Man will pull towards them instead. This ability does a decent amount of damage, all up around 100. With F, you uppercut an enemy with Amazing Combo. It sends them skywards for you to follow up. Enemies with a Spider Tracer take extra damage. Spider-Man has a double jump with spacebar, which adds to his maneuverability. Right click fires Web Cluster. It uses one of the 5 regenerating web ammo you have to deal damage at range and attach a Spider Tracer to the target. It doesn't deal a lot of damage, so you'll still want to get into melee to finish the job. This is the only way you can attach a tracer to the target, and most of your abilities benefit from it in some way. However, if you want to move enemies out of position instead of stick to them, you'll want to hold off attaching the tracer before using Get Over Here, then use the tracer after so they can't escape. Spider-Man's passive is true to his character, and I'm impressed they put it in. When you're close to enemies, you get notified with your Spider Sense. This means it'll be hard for enemies to get the jump on you and also easier to track them down. He also, fitting to his theme, can crawl around walls but also press a left click when doing so to start running up them. The combo they suggest is to flank with Web Sling, then attach a tracer with your right click, close the distance with Get Over Here, and follow up with an uppercut. Though I think opening with Get Over Here so it pulls them towards you and picking off an enemy before swinging out is a more legitimate strategy when you don't have your ultimate. When you do, swing into the middle and unleash it, then start using your abilities to dart around and pick off stragglers. Otherwise, Spider-Man is a very mobile ambush style hero, true to his character. Is he a 5-star difficulty? No. I say Loki is harder, he's probably more around a 3-star. But he does take skill picking the right moments to attack and positioning well, since his damage output isn't as high as other DPS characters. Before we continue, I just want to mention that I'm using terms tank, DPS and support, though technically tank is called a vanguard, DPS is called a duelist, and support is called a strategist in this particular game, and that more closely relates to what they can do, but I refer to tank, DPS and support simply because it's easier to understand. Next up is the lovable tree man Groot. He's a tank to no one's surprise with 900 base HP and classed as a 1-star difficulty, which isn't accurate, more on that soon. With left click you use Vine Strike. You send out your arms like Dalsim and deal a decent 75 HP a hit slowly. The benefit is, though, that you can remain at range, unlike the Hulk. With Q you can cast your ultimate, Strangling Prison, which fires a vine cluster in the direction you're facing. It deals huge damage, pulls enemies around it into the center, locks them in place, then deals additional damage over time for those caught. Well over 150 total. The main benefit is that those enemies are extremely vulnerable to follow-up AoE, like from Iron Man or Hela. Left shift places a Thorn Lash wall, which cannot be passed through at target location. You can have up to 3 of these walls, and the ability has charges. When you or an ally attacks an enemy near the wall also attacks, dealing damage around it, the same as Groot's auto attack, more or less doubling your damage output and controlling your enemy's movements if you're skilled. E casts an Ironwood Wall. It has 1000 HP and blocks enemies and allies from passing through. It also grants Groot and allies bonus health, every time an enemy takes damage near the wall, that is. 40 a hit for Groot. Right click sends out a Spore Bomb, which does decent damage in an AoE. It also sends out clusters that do additional damage around it. Groot's passive is Flora Colossus, which makes the wooden walls around Groot awaken, activating extra effects. However, these effects were explained already. This passive simply means don't move away from your walls or they won't attack or give bonus health. Groot's team up ability is one we all knew would be coming. By pressing C, Rocket can jump on Groot's shoulders, taking half damage while on it in exchange for not being able to control where he moves. But it is a good way to provide more damage and extra support. Leaks show a new hero, Jeff the Baby Shark, will be able to do this team up as well. They suggest you use your walls to reshape the terrain to your advantage, but the suggestion they showed requires your enemies to stand still, which never happens. You need to place your walls around the fights as to get the benefit, with your goal being to hem your enemies in and do powerful AoE abilities. However, a bad Groot will block their allies, which is why I think Groot is more a 2 or even a 3-star difficulty, simply because an unskilled player will not know how to utilize good positioning and how to best help their team. But a skilled player will seem almost unfair. Next is the DPS hero, the Punisher, a 1-star difficulty hero, which I agree with. He has 300 HP, which is 50 HP higher than most ranged DPS and almost all of the supports, earning him that 1 star as he's slightly more forgiving. He has 2 weapons which you can switch between, with 1 for his assault rifle, Adjudication, and 2 for his shotgun, Deliverance. Adjudication burns through enemies very quickly, seemingly around double that of Bruce Banner's Gamma Gun. Deliverance, though, is a monster at close range. Its damage drops off significantly at range, but up close, you can 2-tap most DPS heroes. You have to fear this man up close. His ultimate is Final Judgment. Activating it gives you 2 Gatling guns and a missile launcher for 10 seconds. Holding left click, your Gatling guns burn through enemies at an incredibly high rate, while missiles fire out at enemies around you. This is a devastating ultimate, but do remember you still need good aim, and you're vulnerable to being killed as you don't gain any form of shield. Most will try to take you out while you're screaming Judge, Jury, and Executioner and equipping your miniguns. On left shift is Vantage Connection, which sends out a cable, and with F you can let it pull you in, getting you good positioning to get off your ultimate, though this positioning skill isn't as good as some of the other DPS classes. Pressing E deploys a culling turret that does huge damage at what you're targeting and half damage to those around it. The downside is that you can't move while in it. It has 600 HP and provides you a bit of protection. You'll need to reload though after 200 rounds, and that burns through fast. So Punisher can hold points well, but higher level players will see an easy target just like Bastion is. Right click is Scourge Grenade, and it deals okay damage, but it temporarily blinds those hit. This can be devastating in a firefight with the Punisher. He can burn you down in seconds. The Punisher also has a passive, Warrior's Gaze, which lets him continue to see enemies for roughly 4 seconds after they go out of your field of view, aka behind walls or objects. Another reason why the Punisher is a 1-star difficulty, because it's just easier knowing where your enemies are and where they're going. Just like Spider-Man, you're not getting juked as easily. Finally, his team up ability, Infinite Punishment, works with Rocket Raccoon. With C, Rocket Raccoon sends out an ammo overload device. Both the Punisher's weapons get unlimited ammo and fire faster. This is devastating for both, but Deliverance, as a shotgun, really benefits from no reloading. They suggest utilizing your different weapons and your turret to strike enemies at different ranges, and they're right. Your only worry with this hero is what to use and when. If you gain the high ground, you have an advantage over many heroes, and no one can escape you with Warrior's Gaze. Picking the right time to use Final Judgment, though, will take practice. Next is the Omega level DPS mutant, Storm. She has a difficulty rating of 3 stars, and that doesn't seem right. She's a 1 or 2 star at best. Not too hard to use. Maybe they made it 3 because she flies around the battlefield and you need to learn a bit of positioning, but she has very little mechanically going on. She has 300 HP like the Punisher, which is decent for a ranged DPS. Her left click is Wind Blade, which launches off blades of wind that pierce through targets for full damage, making positioning with her very important but not necessary. Considering she can fly around, it'll be a little easier to do. Your left click does roughly 75 damage a hit, which is high. With attack speed factored in, the Punisher's auto attacks are more damaging, but only slightly. Your ultimate is Omega Hurricane. When activated, you go into first person, then target a location you want to unleash death. When you do, you transform out that location into a powerful hurricane for 5 seconds. It sucks enemies into it and deals huge damage. In this mode, you can move around, but have a temporary 200 bonus health that disappears when you revert back. It's a crazy powerful AoE ability that can wipe teams if they are grouped together. On left shift, you can change the weather around you with weather control. Think Lucio from Overwatch. You have 2 modes, Tornado and Thunder. In Tornado mode, you and your allies get a movement speed buff. In Thunder, you and your allies get a damage buff. Yes, they've made a DPS hero have a support ability, and they've done this with most heroes, making it so you don't need a pure support, but can still support your team. Her E ability is Goddess Boost. It simply boosts the output of your weather controlled mode, making Tornado or Thunder more potent. It has a long 15-second cooldown, but makes Tornado speed everyone up a huge amount and makes Thunder strike enemies around you for a decent amount of damage. Sometimes this really melts targets you aren't even aiming for. The buff lasts 8 seconds, meaning you have 8 seconds to really burn the team down. Your right click sends out a decently powerful lightning bolt forward, similar to Windblade, but dealing more damage on a cooldown. Nothing flash, well, it's lightning so it is flash, but you get what I mean. The suggested combo sounds boring because it is. You just make sure you get your team into position fast, then switch to damage and unleash your abilities. It's a simple hero, but effective. She doesn't have any team ups because her team up is the fact that you boost your team's speed and damage. Next up is the mechanically complicated tank hero, the Hulk. He has 3 forms, Bruce Banner, Hero Hulk, and Monster Hulk. This is the reason why they've classed him as a 4-star difficulty, though I don't think he actually is that hard to play. You have 200 HP as Bruce, which is the lowest in the game, and you have a gamma gun on left click which fires fast and does decent damage. Puny Banner is his ultimate and it turns you into Hero Hulk form. You want to do this as soon as possible unless you're not ready to jump into the fray. His left shift ability is Gamma Grenade and it does okay damage, but it's more of an AoE and knockback effect. It's a get off me button that can be used to send enemies where they don't want to be. As Hero Hulk, you have 900 HP, making him a tank. Your left click is now a melee attack, which deals around 2 times more damage than the Gamma Gun, but strikes roughly half the speed, so you won't be outputting more left click damage. His ultimate transforms him into Monster Hulk, which has his own abilities I'll go through after. Left shift is Indestructible Guard, which puts gamma shields on Hulk and his allies nearby. The shield absorbs damage and converts its energy into charge for your ultimate. So as Hulk, you'll be charging your ultimate faster than many heroes. The ability is also full damage immunity, though timing will be key as it doesn't last long. Hulk also has a crowd control on E with radioactive lockdown. It shoots out gamma energy to place enemies in a quantum void that makes them immobilized but also immune to all ability effects. It doesn't last long, but lasts long enough for your team to get into position to take out the enemy. Very devastating in a fast-paced game like this. Holding space makes Hulk charge a leap, denoted by the arrow. It deals damage and knockback at the point of impact. Right click is Gamma Burst, a thunderclap-like ability that does high AoE damage in front of you on a short cooldown. Great to finish off enemies. Hulk also has the team up Gamma Boost. If you target an ally Doctor Strange or Iron Man, you'll get a prompt to press C to infuse them. This grants Doctor Strange an AoE Gamma Burst when he uses Maelstrom of Madness, and it gives Iron Man an improved new mode when he uses Armor Overdrive. So if playing with friends, consider these team up abilities. As a combo, they suggest leaping into the fray, popping on your shield, left and right clicking until you have enough ultimate charge, then turning into Monster Hulk. They're right, you want to be your team's tank and disrupt enemy lines as much as possible as the Hulk, but good timing with your Indestructible Guard and radioactive lockdown is key to this hero. As Monster Hulk, you have a huge 15,050 HP, the most in the game by a lot. Your heavy blows now knock back enemies into the air and deal significant damage. Your ultimate is World Breaker, the same move used on Loki in the first Avengers movie. You grab an enemy, lock them down for the duration of the ability, and deal around 275 to 300 damage. That outright kills many heroes, but Groot is okay as he has 900. Your radioactive lockdown is the same as Hero Hulk's, except it does quite a bit more damage over time. Leap also deals more damage and knocks flying enemies down to the ground. Your Gamma Burst has a much longer range and deals more damage as well. Overall, Monster Hulk is a seriously souped up version of Hero Hulk, as you'd expect, but the deal is you lose all your supportive abilities. However, you only seem to revert back when you die, so you just continue to get angrier and stronger as the Hulk. Next up is the support trickster, Loki, with a 4-star difficulty rating. If anything, I think he should be the only 5-star hero. You have to know how every single hero in the game plays and know when it's right to transform into them. This is a high skill cap hero. He has 250 HP, lower than most DPS we've seen so far. His mystical missiles deal decent damage and heal allies in a decent sized AoE blast around the projectile's target, but with low attack speed. So you can fire into the middle of a skirmish to both heal and damage, not needing to be discriminate. See, this makes being support fun. Your ultimate is God of Mischief, in which you can transform into any ally or enemy you target. You mirror them exactly, except you get a full ultimate charge and can unleash their ultimate right away. Hard to get off in a pinch, but very effective if you're skilled. With left shift, you can cast Regeneration Domain. It creates an area in which allies aren't damaged by attacks anymore, instead get healed for that amount for the duration of the ability, around 5 seconds, but it has a huge cooldown of 25 seconds. Doppelganger is his E, and in true trickster fashion, you can create an illusion of yourself at a location. It moves on the spot and attacks to keep up the ruse. The amazing thing is, it deals damage. It does copy the abilities you cast. For example, it will cast Regeneration Domain 2, letting you place them at range, since you can cast your illusion at range. With F, you cast Devious Exchange and simply swap locations with your illusion. A needed ability, as without it, smart enemies will just ignore your stationary illusions when they suss them out. This way you can be more mobile and get away from sticky situations. On a short cooldown that is. Or you can position to use Backstab. With V, you stab an enemy dealing a low 25-ish damage from the front, but around 50 from the back. It has no cooldown, so you can rogue it up with your right click, Deception, as it leaves behind an illusion of yourself but makes you invisible, letting you get away or get into position for some sneaky backstabs. If you team up with Hela, she can resurrect you, that is, if she gets the final hit on an enemy, in which case you'll get back up, meaning that if you see Hela and Loki together, kill Hela first. If Loki is alive though, Hela will instead give Loki some temporary 100 bonus health. They suggest you use Deception and Doppelganger to create illusions to boost your damage and healing, though I suggest you save at least one to get away when you're targeted. Then when you see a moment to strike, use your ultimate to turn the tide. Loki is probably the hardest hero in the game to master right now because he has mechanics that require you to understand every hero, and he has high cooldowns on abilities that require skill. I fear what a good Loki player can do though. No one would believe you if you told them that Doctor Strange is a tank, but I guess you have this to prove it. He starts with 600 HP but has a 1600 HP shield of the Sephirim on right click. His passive influences the character a lot, so let's start with that. The price of Magik makes it so every time you hit an enemy with anything, you accumulate dark magic, the amount of which is shown around your crosshairs. If you let it fill, you'll enter anti-heal mode, wherein you'll deal damage to yourself when you deal damage to others. So you'll need to slow down the damage output or release the dark magic. Dark magic naturally goes down by itself as well. His left click is Daggers of Denak, and they deal surprisingly high amounts of damage at a slow attack speed, nearly 100 damage a hit, so if you can land them, you'll be doing a lot of work. It's high because yes, these accumulate dark magic. His ultimate is Eye of Agamotto. Like in the movies, Doctor Strange pushes the souls out of enemies' bodies. This deals a small amount of damage, but the main draw is that it stuns everyone caught in it. You can attack both them and their souls while they're stunned, before their souls return to their bodies. This is devastating with follow-up, like from Iron Man's AoE abilities. With left shift, you can use Cloak of Levitation to fly around for 6 seconds with a 12-second cooldown. You can release your accumulated dark energy with Maelstrom of Madness. The higher you've accumulated, the more damage it will deal in an AoE around you. Yes, it deals quite a bit. Pressing F will cast Pentagram of Farala, letting you select a spot in first person where you want to cast portals that let all units, including your enemies, travel between. It's absolutely seamless, so if you coordinate with your allies well, you can get the jump on your enemies. Yes, I know, coordination in pubs, laughable. Hence why he's a 3-star difficulty. With right click, you bring up Shield of Sephirim. It has 1600 HP like I mentioned and protects everyone behind it until it breaks. It slowly recharges HP over time when not cast, and it has no cooldown beyond the animation. This is how you tank for your team and keep them safe. We've mentioned Hulk being able to power up Doctor Strange with Gamma Maelstrom. Well, now you know how. It simply makes your dark magic removal tool, Maelstrom of Madness, deal extra AoE damage. Not as flashy as Iron Man's upgrades, but damage is damage. They suggest you use your shield to protect your team and daggers to build up dark magic. When you have a lot, fly into enemies and unleash it with the Maelstrom. I suggest swooping in first when your ultimate is up, using it to lock down enemies, then build up dark magic and unleash the AoE after. Doctor Strange has a lot of tools to support your team, but can deal a surprising amount of damage. Mantis is up next, and she's an easy to pilot support hero. She has a low 250 HP, so you'll need to keep her safe. With left click, she fires a life energy blast, which deals a decent amount of damage, around 50 a hit. She regenerates an energy thorn on crit, which you'll find out what they're for soon. With Q, she casts Soul Resurgence, which lasts 7 seconds. It heals allies over time and gives them a movement speed boost. With left shift, you throw out a spore that puts to sleep an enemy it hits. It lasts a decent 4 seconds. Coordinated teammates will use this to get off their hard to land abilities. Pressing E will consume one of those life orbs we mentioned before to cast allied inspiration and give them a damage boost. It's targeted and seems to last a decent amount of time, or you can press F and activate Natural Anger. This will consume a life orb and give Mantis a damage boost. Right click will consume an orb and give an ally a decent heal over time. Her passive is Nature's Favor. When full health, she moves faster. She also heals over time when consuming life orbs. This works together in an obvious way to keep her healthy and moving around quickly. The suggested combo is obvious: support a teammate with heals and damage boosts, while boosting yourself and controlling enemies. She actually does quite a lot of damage when boosted, but she shines when next to a tank that can disrupt and absorb hits for her. She's a simple 1-star for a reason. It's not hard to understand how she plays, though try not to put yourself in the open for long. Rocket Raccoon is up next, and if you said he was going to be an easy to play support hero, I would have laughed at you, but here we are. He has 250 HP, but he's a very small character model, making him harder to hit. Your left click is a rapid fire, easy to aim, long ranged weapon. It's almost exactly as devastating as the Punisher's rifle, which is insane for a support. Right click, however, fires slow moving orbs that heal allies as they pass through them. Not a large heal, but the heal matters. Your Q launches out Cosmic Yarn Amplifier. It grants every ally around it a massive damage boost. It seems to almost double your output. It doesn't move around, so you need to stay in its AoE, though you can keep moving around, so it's much better than Lunar Snows. It also lasts a decent amount of time. By pressing left shift, you jetpack dash in the direction of your camera. It has 2 charges as a default and takes a short 5 seconds to gain a charge. E deploys a Battle Rebirth Beacon. It has 100 HP, so it can be killed, but if an ally dies in its vicinity, it revives them. It also spits out armor packs that give bonus health and rocket jetpacks that let an ally boost 1 time. If you hold space on the wall, you can wild crawl. Simply, it lets you run up walls and get into better positions. If you hold space while in the air though, you activate Flying Ace, which lets you use your jetpack to fall slowly. Unsurprisingly, his team up ability with Groot exists, Old Friends. By pressing C, you jump on Groot's shoulders, and in this mode you take reduced damage, around half, but you can still use your guns and tools. As mentioned before, Rocket can throw the Punisher and ammo overload device with Z, giving him unlimited ammo and faster fire rate. The suggested combo for Rocket is a little light, but basically as Rocket you want to be outputting damage and making sure your allies output damage. They can be a little more reckless with you around since you can pop down a Rebirth Beacon out of the line of fire. It might actually force enemies to switch targets to the beacon, which gives you critical seconds to kill them. Rocket leans more towards dealing damage than healing, and a good support helps their team deal more damage, right? Next up is Hela, who's a DPS with a 3-star difficulty rating and 250 HP, lower than the Punisher by 50. Her left click sends out Night Sword Thorns, which unsurprisingly deals a huge amount of damage, just under 100 damage on the body, and the headshots dealing well over 150, two-shotting most heroes. Her ultimate is Goddess of Death, which sends you into the sky and first person for 10 seconds. You have 800 HP in this mode before you're knocked out of it. While up there, you can shoot crows out that explode for high damage in an AoE. You instantly get the high ground advantage and can clean up enemies without needing to be particularly accurate. Along with her passives, this can wipe teams. With left shift, you transform into a crow and fly towards where you are aiming. Pressing it again will end the dash. This is a fast movement ability that lets you position well. Pressing E will fire Soul Drainer. This does a small amount of damage when compared to your swords, but it stuns targets briefly and pulls their allies towards them. This combos with your AoE passive, Naztrin's Crow Storm, which I'll get to soon. Right click fires multiple Night Sword Thorns at your target, which lodges in them to deal light damage on impact, but deals a heavy amount of damage after a short delay when they explode in an AoE. This has an 8-second cooldown. Now, I mentioned her passive before. It will, when defeating an enemy, create a magical crow in its place, exploding after 2 seconds for a decent amount of damage in an AoE. Her next passive, Hell's Descent, lets her slow her fall by holding space, similar to Rocket Raccoon. Already mentioned is her team up ability, Queen of Hell, that rewards her for getting the last hits on enemies when around Loki by resurrecting him or granting him armor. The suggested combo is to open by stunning your enemies with Soul Drainer, which is a good idea, though how you follow up is up to you. I'd use your right click to place the delayed AoE damage, then start auto attacking. If you're lucky, you'll wipe out everyone around. Only use Goddess of Death when you aren't the target so you can start damaging enemies without them realizing, as the projectiles aren't fast and can be avoided. You also don't want to be targeted. Hela is the definition of DPS, as even her supportive passive is to simply get a last hit on an enemy. She deals a lot of damage but is also quite squishy, requiring some support or knowledge of positioning. Next up is Black Panther, a melee DPS with 300 HP and a 4-star difficulty rating, though I think he's closer to a 2 or 3 star. His melee attacks are fast but hit for a very low 30 to 40 a hit, so you really need to be consistent and sticky with Black Panther. His ultimate is Bast Descent. It summons Bast, who pounces forward, dealing damage and attaching a Vibranium mark on hit to enemies. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's quick and easy to hit a lot of enemies with. The Vibranium mark is for the next ability on left shift, Sprint Rend. This is your bread and butter as it charges you forward very quickly, dealing damage, but if the enemy has a Vibranium mark on them, you gain some bonus health. 50 a hit, and also the cooldown on this is refreshed, letting you do it over and over. It does more damage than simply melee attacking, so this is a way to be sticky on enemies. Another way is with your E, Spinning Kick. It deals decent damage, but it places Vibranium marks on enemies hit. By holding space, you can run up walls similar to Rocket Raccoon, but you can also jump at the top once you detach, letting you get the literal jump on your enemies. Right click throws a spear that deals around 50 damage in a large AoE and attaches a Vibranium mark to all those hit. The Black Panther's passive, Panther's Cunning, makes him deal much more damage when at low health, very low, doubling his output. So suddenly that low damage auto attack doesn't seem so bad. Black Panther's team up ability is with Magik, and when she presses C to open a portal, Black Panther can use it too, letting them get the jump on their enemies when working together. The combo suggested with Black Panther is obvious. Use your abilities to attach Vibranium marks, then sprint rend and left click over and over until they're dead. Black Panther is all about being mobile and sticky, burning down enemies slowly, surely, and almost suicidally, which works very well against squishy heroes that need to escape to better line up their shots. Because Black Panther is hard to lock down, he can also deal with tanks or be on the front lines, though when overwhelmed, he can't really even the odds very quickly. Magik is up next, and she's a 250 health melee DPS hero, meaning she has to have some damage or abilities to make up for having less health, which she absolutely does. Her left click is Soul Sword and slashes forward in an AoE, dealing around 75 damage a hit, slowly. So you've got to stick to your target to make use of this. Her ultimate is Dark Child. It transforms you into demon form, boosting all of your abilities for 12 seconds. In the case of your left click, doubling the damage output. It doesn't increase your health though, so you simply hit a lot faster and harder, more on this soon. Left shift is Stepping Discs, and it lets you teleport a short distance in the direction you're facing, letting you get into melee range easily as it has 2 charges as a base and recharges quickly. E is Umbral Incursion, and it's another dash. Yes, melee DPS seem to have a lot of ways to get in, like they should. This one launches enemies up in the air, letting you follow up as you literally follow them up. It seems to do over 100 damage with an 8-second cooldown. Then we have Eldritch Whirl on left click right after you exit the Stepping Disc portal. It hits everything around in a large AoE and has no cooldown as it's a timing based activation. Right click though is a charged ranged slash. You can release it when it flashes for extra damage, just over 100 at range. You might use this to finish a fleeing enemy when your abilities are on cooldown, but I don't see much use for it beyond that. However, right clicking is much better when exiting a stepping disc portal, as you summon a demon with Demon's Rage. It slashes at an enemy, dealing huge damage, outright killing the 300 HP Punisher in seconds. As you might have expected if you were paying attention, is that Magik's passive, Limbo's Might, gives her bonus health based on damage inflicted to enemies. It's not a 1-to-1, but you still get a decent amount, which really adds up and keeps her alive. As mentioned with C, she can use Disc Master to open a portal at a location she can see. Both her and Black Panther can use the portal, meaning these two heroes work well together when you're coordinating with a friend. The combo they suggest is to use your teleport to get into the action, follow up with Whirl Slash or Demon, then use your uppercut to get an enemy into the air and finish them off. When you're done, use teleport again to get out. Decent idea considering Magik is a great guerrilla fighter. However, if you have your ultimate, all the better. Activate it first, then go in and take out multiple enemies very easily. We can see her here in her ultimate form, everything dealing considerably more damage. Eldritch Whirl dealing around 150 damage in a large AoE, and Magic Slash dealing around 200. The Limbo Demon dealing AoE damage and burning targets down faster. She's similar to Black Panther in that she's a very mobile melee DPS, but she's less suicidal and more tactical. Next up is Luna Snow, a support hero I had to research as I had no idea she existed as a character. Turns out Marvel invented her only recently in 2018. She's a 2-star difficulty hero based around ice powers. Like Loki, her auto attacks both damage enemies and heal allies. It's not an AoE and fires faster, doing considerable single target damage, around 70 damage or heal a burst. Her ultimate, Fate of Both Worlds, channels her inner K-pop for 12 seconds, sexy dancing to provide either healing or a damage buff in an AoE. You need to toggle between them. No idea why, as I think it should have just done both, as you're locked in place for the full duration. It heals quickly and boosts damage by seemingly double, but other heroes like Raccoon can do that and don't have that downside. Left shift activates Ice Arts. In this mode, for 6 seconds, you fire at ice shards that deal damage to enemies and heal allies while also restoring your health. Doesn't seem to boost your damage output, and you could heal allies with your left shift already, so I'm not too convinced with this hero yet. E casts Share the Stage, which attaches an idle aura to an ally. That ally gets healed whenever Luna heals anyone else for the same amount. Right click is a decent crowd control. Absolute Zero fires an ice ball that damages an enemy for a decent amount, freezes them in place for a few seconds, and restores your health. Your passive, Cryo Heart, simply is a reminder that Absolute Zero and Ice Arts also restores your health when cast. Not sure why we needed that as passive text when it just could have been clarified on the abilities. The heal though is very high, and you can fully heal in seconds by casting one of these abilities. So she can shrug off glancing damage, but targeted damage she will still melt to. Her next passive, Smooth Skate, is actually nice. After a few seconds of moving forward, you'll start ice skating, which increases your movement speed, so she can get around with style. Her team up works with Namor and is called Icy Disco. By pressing C on Namor, you infuse him with ice energy, which powers up his abilities. Her combo is obvious. You want to stick behind your allies, healing them and damaging your enemies with left click and Ice Arts. You want to keep the mark on your ally that's tanking damage and keep them healed. When you're out of the line of fire, activate your ultimate to help your allies and burn down enemies. Though smart enemies will just back up when you've activated it, as it's very obvious and requires allies to stay in a small radius. As you can tell, I'm not completely sold on this hero yet. The Marvel Cinematic Universe died with Iron Man, and you probably will die against him. The 250 health range DPS hero. Boy does he have some tools. Just passively he flies around for his movement, though this isn't mentioned as a passive, even though Luna Snow gets a passive that's just reminder text. His left click is Repulsor Blast. It deals low damage in a large AoE around the target. This is just to tickle enemies between abilities. Abilities like Unibeam on right click, which fires a beam from his chest, dealing around 250 damage if you keep the beam on the target for 3 seconds. Keep in mind that both left and right click share ammo, 100, that needs to be reloaded after it runs out. So using left a lot before right will lower its duration. His ultimate is Invincible Pulse Cannon. It fires a pulse in the target direction, dealing absolutely insane damage in an AoE. I'm talking instant kill kind of damage. With left shift, you'll activate Hyper Velocity, which is basically your aerial sprint, letting you get around very quickly. Pressing E is armor overdrive. It increases the damage of your left and right clicks, almost doubling their damage output. Suddenly those repulsor blasts don't seem so bad. Considering almost everything you do is AoE, you'll be taking out teams with any hero that can group them up for you, like Groot for example. It lasts 10 seconds and during that time, you have unlimited ammo, so yes, you can fire Unibeam the whole time, if you don't mind being a sitting duck, or a flying duck, whatever. The overdrive also cosmetically gives you cool armor upgrades. It also lets you use your F ability, Micro Missile Barrage, which is normally locked off. It sends out missiles at targets, dealing large AoE damage. You can also activate this while using Hyper Velocity, your dash, so you can drive by and spray enemies with missiles. It's not very accurate, but it's a lot of fun. Once again, micro missiles can't be activated outside of using these abilities. Finally is Gamma Overdrive, which we've mentioned before. This is a team-up ability where Hulk charges up Iron Man with gamma radiation. When Iron Man activates Armor Overdrive, he'll get boosted damage. A more powerful left click, dealing double damage of the already boosted amount. Unibeam and missiles are also even stronger, making the Hulk and Iron Man a perfect team for dealing damage and disrupting enemies. Keep in mind that even though Iron Man seems very strong, he is a target. Everyone can see him flying around with no cover, and he only has 250 HP with no real escape mechanism or heal. He's a powerhouse in the right situations, but you really do need to keep him out of the line of fire and keep him unassuming. 2-star difficulty suits him. The suggested combo isn't really a combo. Just use your mouse clicks to deal damage and boost around until you find a good position and unleash your pulse cannon or armor overdrive. So those are the heroes we have access to. There's still Magneto, Scarlet Witch, Penny Parker, Star-Lord and Namor in the closed beta, as well as other heroes on the way to talk about, so check back later and I'll provide a link below to the remaining heroes. So what do you think? Like what you see so far? Let me know below. For everything Rivals, you're in the right place. Ciao friends.